things take a very brutal turn in one of the show's most darkest episodes yet. Hey guys, from over Fargo, Season 3, Episode 5, The House of Special Purpose, and holy shit, one episode. I mean, like I said, this season started off kind of slow, and I didn't really know where it was really going to go, but ever since Episode 2, it's been getting consistently better and better and better as it went on, and this episode, I don't know if this was the best episode of the season, but it's definitely tied with the third episode, because this episode was insane. I mean, there was so much crazy stuff going on here, and I mean, when Varga said what he said to Emmett, he fucking meant it. I mean, this episode definitely shows that he very much did mean what he said. So much insane stuff going on this episode, and I don't know where the show is going at this point. I really have no idea, but we'll have to see what ends up happening here. But let's just get into this episode because, like I said, there definitely is a lot to talk about. So we start off and we see It's Hard to Be Humble's playing, and Emmett is driving down the road, and he's driving down the road all hopeful and everything, and immediately we get this crazy scene with his wife, Grace, where she beats him home and picks up a padded manila envelope left outside their front door addressed to Emmett with a "Your Eyes Only" warning. So she has no idea really what this is about, and this is something I always love about Fargo, is that they take characters that we really have not interacted with a lot before and really shine the spotlight on them, and that's kind of what they did in the scene. I mean, when have we had a scene with Grace? We know next to nothing about her, so this scene actually really did help. I actually really did love the way this was done. She settles in, she opens the envelope, and there's this ransom-style note that basically says, pay us $100,000 or we share your wife. So clearly this is something that they did not want his wife to see. So the envelope also contains an unlabeled CD, so you immediately know the $100,000 is probably has to do with Ray and Nikki because they want that money back from Emmett, and apparently Grace's curiosity got the best of her. She emerges from her room in tears, and we have no idea what it's about. All we hear like these sex sounds, and it turns out that Ray and Nikki literally recorded a sex tape of them with Ray as Emmett, fucking Nikki, and basically they're going at it, and they clearly did this to, mess with Emmett's relationship. That's clearly what they want to do here, and at least at this point, we're led to believe that this is Nikki and Ray. And the scene then switches to Nikki. She's preparing the camera for the video shoot while discussing with Ray where exactly they should have sex, so clearly this is something that they did make, and we see that we're definitely the makers of this tape. So once again, Nikki is the brains behind the scam, and it always shows that Nikki's the one kind of in control, basically telling Ray specifically where they should do it, how they should do it, and reminding him that they'll need to keep their faces slightly obscured. So Nikki assures Ray it's time to play to win, and since they lost the high roller, they really have no other choice. So yeah, you see that they are the ones who made this tape, and Nikki and Ray are both angry at Emmett, but she's more into the idea of revenge over Ray losing his job than Ray. I mean, because she knows the reason Ray lost his job is because of Emmett. That's really the whole reason this went down. So as Nikki gets dressed, she pulls on a lawn wig, and Ray pulls out an engagement ring, and I love the way she reacts. She's like, oh no, I'm not properly dressed for this, and basically she takes off the wig if he's going to propose, and once she does, she says, of course, yes, and tells him that she's the happiest woman alive, and proposal complete, she says that they will now make the sex tape, and again, it's a very crazy scene. Emmett's still driving. Grace calls him, screaming. By the time he gets home, Grace has the kids all loaded up and ready to leave. His kids inform that they saw the tape and are disgusted because, again, they're led to believe that this was Emmett on the tape, and he tries to convince his wife that he didn't do anything, but she won't even look at him, and after they pull away, his face transforms from sad and confused to angry, and, I mean, Ian McGregor just did such a great job facial-wise in that scene. You can tell immediately he is very sad. Like, he doesn't know really what to think. Then he goes kind of in, like, this, not really knowing what to think, and then he, above all, is angry because he now knows what's really going on here. Emmett watches the tape. He can't believe what his brother has done, and I think Emmett kind of realized that, I mean, the thing about Ray and Nikki is that I don't think they meant for Grace to intentionally see this tape. I think they just wanted money from Emmett, and they didn't mean for Grace to see it. I don't think that was what happened here, but you can tell that this feud has already gotten a lot worse, and this is one of the only big things that happens here. I mean, there are a lot more big things here. So to say this is like the smallest thing happens in the episode really does show the monumental scale this episode is at. So then arrives at work to find Varga, and his thugs have made themselves comfortable in his office at this point. They are very well substantiating everything, and they're very settled there. So Varga then insults Sai's wife, looking at her photo, calling her fat, and he then pisses in Sai's world's best dad coffee cup and claims that Sai's office is now his. So everything he has, again, he has now claimed. I've said it before, I think Varga just wants to take everything away. And Mimo and Yuri then force Sai at gunpoint to drink Varga's urine, and as gags, they force him to drain the cup. I mean, this is legit torture. This isn't funny anymore. Like, this is really torture what he's doing, and this is happening because Sai actually spoke with Winnie, which Sai does admit to, but swears was only in regards to a car accident, and obviously, Varga's convinced that Sai's trying to rat them out, that that's what he's really trying to do here. Obviously, we know that's not what's going on. Sai did this because, Winnie had a lot of questions. So Varga reminds them that they're now partners and that lives are changing for the better, and Sai just needs to fall in line and do what he's told, and nothing more. And it shows very well that they will go to extreme measures and do whatever they can to make sure that, they are in control. And Yuri and Mimo then escort a stunned Sai to his new office, and again, Michael Stolberg in this scene is just incredible. I love what he did here. He sneaks into the stairwell and he calls Emmett, leaving a message that is worse than they thought. So clearly, this is turning out to be a lot worse of a situation than they really could have ever believed. I mean, this is really getting worse and worse as it goes on. And, Sai has always kind of had doubts and Emmett has remained hopeful. This, I think, is really the episode where Emmett starts to figure out what they really have gotten themselves into. So later that same day, Sai then meets with their potential investor, Mrs. Ruby Goldfarb, and she's at this fancy restaurant. He's very on edge. He's laughing nervously, explaining he just had an upsetting experience. I mean, to call it that is, I think, a bit of an understatement. I mean, he literally saw him, piss in this cup that really means a lot to him. He insulted his wife and everything. I mean, they've taken everything. They've basically taken everything except for them. I mean, yeah, they kind of are, in many ways, their property, but they haven't taken, advantage of them yet. And that's, like, the one thing that I think, is the only thing they haven't taken. So Mrs. Goldfarb confirms that she wants to buy the entire company, or if that's not doable, she'll buy lots on her own and be their competitor. So she warns him that he doesn't want a Goldfarb for an enemy, and Sai says they're open to being bought out, lying that Emmett's looking to dedicate himself to charitable cause instead of working full-time. Now, of course, this isn't true, but at this point, I mean, he's so frantic that he doesn't really know what to say, and their conversation's interrupted. He gets a text from Emmett saying that they need to meet at his house immediately, obviously because of what went down, and Sai then makes an excuse to cut the meeting with Mrs. Goldfarb short, and he takes off for Emmett's, and Yuri and Mimo follow not far behind. You don't know what's going on here, but over at Emmett's place, Sai then finds him huddled into a corner, crying his eyes out, and again, Ian McGregor just incredible in this scene. If you didn't care about Emmett yet, I mean, this episode, you have to care for him. I mean, he's lost his wife at this point. He really is kind of losing everything, and Sai asks if Emmett signed partnership papers with Varga, but Emmett's only thinking about what Ray did to cause Grace to take their kids and leave. He's not really thinking about Varga right now. So Sai nearly explodes. I mean, he knows how dangerous Varga really is, and he says Emmett won't concentrate on their business problem, concerned the enemy is now inside their company, and Emmett asks what is the point of him? He's supposed to be a fixer, nothing is fixed, and everything's broken. I agree with Emmett. I mean, he's supposed to be the one that fixes problems and makes things better for them, but it seems very much like Sai has very much chickened out, at least from Emmett's perspective. He's chickened out and he hasn't really done anything. When I think really, I mean, Sai doesn't know what to do. I think Sai just isn't really comfortable in this sort of position. And yeah, things he's dealt with before, he's known how to fix, but nothing really to this extent. I mean, remember, Emmett's kind of always been the one in control. He's always been the one in control here. They have this company for each other, and I don't really think that Sai knows how to deal with this when Emmett's not in control. So you can really just see how vulnerable position Sai is really in. In this episode, they really did an incredible job of showing us more of Sai's character, and you really do feel terrible for what both of them are going through here. So after all that, Emmett finally reveals to Sai that Ray actually sent Grace a sex tape in which he was dressed up as Emmett, and Emmett then blames Sai for everything, including setting up the business deal that let Varga into their lives, and basically all this is his fault. And I mean, yeah, that's kind of true. Sai was the one who kind of told Emmett about Sai in the first place, and I mean about Varga in the first place, and they argue about who it is to blame for their predicament, and Sai has to be unchained to handle things, and Emmett then calls himself a good man who's never cheated on his wife, and Sai admits that he looks up to him, that this is someone that he really does want to be. Emmett has this great life, and Sai is kind of just in the middle of it all. Like, he's the middleman. He's the one that is in many ways just his sidekick, and he doesn't really feel like he has much more of a role than that. And Emmett says to fix this, whatever takes shackles off, and Sai asks if their shackles off, and Emmett then agrees. And after all this, we finally catch up with Gloria. And honestly, this episode was so great that I didn't really care that we didn't see Gloria until about 20 minutes in this episode. I thought everything was just so great. And we see her, she and Officer Winnie try to explain to Donnie what they've uncovered about Enos's murder. And it's a confusing tale involving multiple Stussies, Parolee, Maurice, and poor Enos. And Donnie knows that the new chief isn't going to like any of this, but Gloria doesn't really care. I mean, they have the evidence, and she and Winnie then head out to track down the woman who lived in the apartment from which the air conditioner fell and landed on Maurice, and they suspect that she's somehow connected to the murder in some way. So, meanwhile, Raven's trying on dinner jackets while he and Nikki are discussing the $100,000 bribe, and Nikki's determined to make Emmett pay because she's certain he cheated Ray out of his inheritance. And Ray then tries another jacket. Nikki gets a call from Sai, who calls her the stupidest person alive, and he tells her that Gloria watched the video and left, so there's no way that Emmett could possibly be paying. So Nikki then swears that they won't stop until Ray gets what's his, and Sai suggests that they meet up. But then when Nikki comes up with a new plan, she actually ups the figure to $200,000 to tell Gloria the truth, which, I mean, that's just desperate. The fact that she's willing to pay $200,000 is insane, but Sai sets up a place to meet and hangs up, so he knows very well what Gloria's done. He knows very well what Nikki has done, and Ray then sells in a jacket. Nikki heads out to meet Sai without giving Ray any details whatsoever. And again, this makes me think that Nikki's just being really shady at this point. Like, she doesn't really, she wants to do this herself, but at the same time, you could see it as her doing this because she doesn't want Ray involved, but I don't really know. At this point, it seems like she's always kind of doing things without Ray knowing. So Ray takes the bus home. Emmett calls him, declaring that Ray's dead, and Emmett lets his brother know that Grace left, and Ray isn't really all that sympathetic. He really doesn't seem to care, and, can you really blame him? I mean, he's out of a job, and a lot of it is Emmett's fault. The fact that Emmett just didn't, give him the thing. I mean, obviously, this is very much his fault, but I think it's just as much Ray's fault that Emmett's marriage ended. They both have kind of caused each other this problem, so Emmett should have done the right thing to begin with, and they threaten each other. It escalates as they yell "fuck you" at each other, which I think is the first instance we've had of a fuck in Fargo, which, again, it shows that FX is willing to push the boundaries of what you can do on cable TV a bit more, which I think is really cool the way they've been doing that. But Gloria and Winnie then catch up with Ray. They ask him to come to the station, and they promise to have him home by 6 p.m. So the interrogation begins, and again, you see Ray, they're not really thinking that Ray is at fault, but they know there's definitely more to the story than they have. So Ray claims that he's going back to school, and that's why he's not working anymore as a probation officer. And they ask about his relationship with Sai, and Ray says he doesn't have any hard feelings towards him at the accident, which is obviously not true. He then says it's all a family matter, and the law doesn't need to be involved. And Gloria asks if there's bad blood between him and his brother, and Ray starts to get upset, and Winnie wants to know why Sai hit his Corvette twice, and Ray blames it on Sai's jealousy over his relationship with his brother. And Ray lies and says he's so close with Emmett to the point where Emmett invited him to his wedding, which obviously we know is not true. And at this point, Ray is doing all he can to make himself look as innocent as possible. And I don't know if he's going to be able to continue keeping up appearances for that much longer. So Gloria continues the questioning, and she wants to know all about Maurice. And Ray again doesn't admit to knowing him well and reminds Gloria that he told her that Maurice blew his last piss test, which that part's all true. He didn't really know Maurice that well. He just kind of hired him because he thought he could use him to his advantage, which, little did he know he was kind of, an idiot. But the interrogation is interrupted by Chief Dammik, who, again, he's had enough of all this. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He talks about how, she needs to let Ray go. And Winnie gives a brief rundown of all the evidence. So there really is nothing that Chief Dammik can do to count against him. I mean, they have all of this evidence. Why would they stop now, obviously? So Dammik still is not impressed. He says that this is all just a big coincidence. He's also certain that they can't prove anything. So it's time to set Ray free and move on. And again, this guy is just kind of an asshole. I don't think he has a point here at all. I don't think, obviously none of this is a coincidence. At this point, I'm really not with him. So Emmet then pulls into a parking garage. Varga's waiting for him. He sits down in the passenger seat and asks about Emmett's wife. And Varga then reveals he's not sure that they can really trust Sai, and that there's talk that Sai is colluding with Ray, and clearly he's trying to get Emmet to get rid of Sai. He wants nothing to do with him. He knows that Sai is starting to crack. He knows that Sai is trying to, get Ray to get Emmet to get rid of him. So obviously Varga's going to do what he can to get rid of Sai. So Varga even knows that Ray broke into Emmet's bank. And again, that's from listening into his conversations. He thinks that Sai gave Ray the key to Emmet's safety deposit box, and Varga's convinced that Sai and Ray are working together, or so that Sai is making a move to kick Emmet out and insert Ray into the company. And Emmet says that Sai hates Ray and is totally on board with their new partnership with Varga, so it doesn't really make any sense. And Varga admits that Sai just really wants to protect him. He assures Varga he'll talk to Sai and set things straight. And again, they're already not on good terms. So the fact that Emmett now has this new information, you can really tell that things are going to quickly get very bad between him and Sai. So Emmett then pulls to a parking garage. Varga's then waiting. Oh, I just read this. So basically, Varga and Emmett then enter the office. They find IRS agent LaRue Dollard, who is played by Hamish Linklater. I think played brilliantly by Hamish Linklater. He did an incredible job in this scene. But he's waiting to speak with Emmett, and Dollard wants to know about the withdrawal of $10,000 earlier this week. He explained that the IRS received an alert, and now Dollard has to look at Emmett's books, and it'll be minimally invasive, and the agent calls it informal so that they can avoid a real audit. So I mean, this is just a regular procedure. That's really all they want to do. And Emmett then claims that their records are pristine and that he can't go looking for them. And Dollard asks if the man in the next office is Sai Feltz. And Emmett says that Sai is out of the office. And Dollard informs that he'll need to talk to senior members of his staff. And Emmett says seems to accept all this. They'll make an appointment with Dollard to set his audit the next morning at 7:30 a.m. And you're wondering, I mean, why is he agreeing to all this? Like, why? What's really the point of all that? So basically, as soon as he leaves, Varga then asks if the agent's married or mentioned kids, and Emmett can't believe really what's going on, except the agent wants to see the books, and Varga isn't really concerned because they'll show Dollard the fake books that Emmett didn't even realize that they had. So, I mean, it seems like everything's going well there, and again, Emmett's just kind of giving in to Varga at this point. You can tell that Varga is very much in control of Emmett. Anything that Varga says to him, Emmett kind of just goes along with, and you can really start to see how I think this is definitely going to bite Emmett in the ass, especially once we get to the end of this episode. So as planned, Sai and Nikki then meet in lot 350 away from any traffic, and Sai offers her $40,000 plus she can keep the $10,000 that they stole at the bank, and I think that's a pretty fair deal. But Nikki asks for $200,000 and the stamp or no deal. That's exactly what she wants to do. And Yuri and Mimo then arrive, and although Sai tries to send them away, they for some reason won't leave. So Yuri asks if Nikki's been to Siberia, says the parking lot is much like it, and Yuri talks about the blood that soaks the dirt in Siberia, all the dead bodies of mothers who eat their babies, and basically Nikki tries to leave. Mimo then grabs her, and he and Yuri, we see, she's trying to leave at this point, and obviously, they're trying to, Sai is trying to send them away. They just won't budge. And instead, Mimo actually grabs her, and they beat her ruthlessly. Like, they beat her to a pulp. Sai's looking on very concerned. His legs begin to wobble, and this scene was just so well handled. I mean, we didn't see any of it. We didn't see what was going on with Nikki. All we heard were screams until we simply couldn't hear them anymore, not even knowing if Nikki was okay. I genuinely thought they were going to beat her to death. I did not think she was going to come out of this, but finally, Yuri and Mimo then drive away, and Sai also leaves without checking on Nikki. And I think it's less because he doesn't want to get involved with Yuri and Mimo, and more because he just doesn't want to be a part of the situation. I think he's honestly kind of a coward at this point. He doesn't want to get involved in what's going on there. So the camera slowly moves towards Nikki. She struggles to stand. She makes it to the driver's side door, and Ray then rides home on his bus. He has no idea what actually just happened to his fiance, and Nikki then crawls in the car. She pulls herself up to sit behind the steering wheel. Ray then arrives back home. She talks to Nikki, but she doesn't answer for whatever reason. He finds her fully clothed in the bathtub. She's badly bruised and barely moves when he touches her. He now knows exactly what happened to her, and that is the way this episode ends. Really insane stuff overall, but let's just get this episode and where we're going to go from here. So, holy shit, I mean, once again, this episode really was insane, and there's a lot of places that we can go from here. But let's first talk about Nikki, because this has been such a compelling character. I would argue that it rivals that of Peggy. I think both characters are great for different reasons, but Nikki has been such a great character. Mary Elizabeth Winstead has been killing it all season long, and I really hope that this beatdown does not mean the end of Nikki. I hope that they're able to rise up against this, and knowing Nikki and Ray, I feel like they're going to be able to. I feel like she'll be able to rise up against this, and she'll be able to move on, and Either way, though, I don't think this is going to stop Varga. And I don't think Varga's even done yet. I think this is just the beginning of what he's willing to do. Remember what he said to Emmett. I will do anything to make sure that Nikki and Ray are out of the way. He will do anything to make sure that happens. And I think that means, if he has to beat Nikki to a pulp, then he will do it. And obviously, he himself is not going to. He's going to have, Yuri and Nemo do it. But I mean, holy shit, that entire scene was just so well done. And again, particularly the way it was choreographed, us not really knowing if she would come out of it, I thought was just extremely well handled. And now we have Sai, who I think is really going to regret leaving Nikki, definitely. I think this is something that he's very much going to stew on. I think the fact that he didn't do that, I don't think shows his cowardice. I think, like I said, he is a bit of a coward in some ways. But I think it also shows that Sai knows how dangerous Varga really is, and Emmett is definitely a bit in over his head. Emmett feels like, everything's going great with Varga, that he has nothing to fear. He thinks that Sai is turning against him. He's really just believing everything that Varga is telling him. Why? Varga hasn't given him a reason to not believe him. I mean, he has no idea of all the shit that Varga's been doing. Look, Emmett, like I said, he doesn't know all the stuff that Varga has been doing behind his back. The fact he's been listening into his conversations, and that he has been tampering with certain evidence, and that he has been, trying to make Sai feel like shit, and he's been trying to turn, Sai against, him. I mean, all the other stuff that he's been doing, Emmett has no idea about. But I don't think that's going to last for that much longer. I do think he's eventually going to come around. He's going to realize definitely what's going to happen here. I mean, there's only really so far that Varga can go. And I mean, as great as Varga really is, I love seeing his wrath. There's only so far he can really go. And a lot of people brought this up. He is very childlike. Like, the way he is, it's kind of like the way a child is, where he thinks he can do whatever he wants, and the way he just explained things. I mean, you can tell that he doesn't care about these people. He cares about the money. He cares about taking over everything. He doesn't give a shit about any of these people. He's willing to, he doesn't care what happened to Stella or anything like that, which, by the way, his wife's name is Stella. I don't know why I said Grace. Grace is his daughter, but Stella is actually his wife. And, again, I don't know where that whole thing is going to go. Let's talk about Gloria, because you have to feel bad for her. I mean, her and Winnie are so deep into this case, and yet as deep as they are into this, you still have, you still have the character, of her, that you still have the chief being like, oh, this doesn't mean anything, this is all a coincidence. I mean, there's no one who's more in over his head than this guy is. And I think, he wants to believe it. He doesn't think that, this case means anything. He thinks it's just simply just an open and shut sort of coincidence. There's really not much of a case they have here. But, Gloria and Winnie know very well that that's not the situation. There's definitely something much deeper going on, and I'm definitely interested in seeing how that all does play out. The person I'm really about now is Ray, because it looks like Ray is going to take, vengeance over what Varga really did. But as we've seen, Ray is not as tough and intimidating as he really lets on. He, especially without Nikki telling him what to do and giving him those necessary steps, I don't know if he's going to be able to take on Varga on his own. I don't really know how this is going to go, and the fact that Varga says he's coming after Nikki and Ray, I just don't really know what's going to happen there. We'll have to see the way that really does go down. I don't know if Ray's going to get hurt or what's really going to happen there, but there's just a lot of possibilities for what can happen here, and we're now at the halfway point of the season, and things are just getting insane. I mean, they really are. I can't believe the crazy directions that we're going. I mean, everything just seems to be getting crazier and crazier as the show really does go on, and I don't know really, like I said, what's going to be happening with that. We also have, the other characters. Like, we have, for example, the Goldfarbs. I mean, you got that character being like, don't fuck with the Goldfarbs, and that's kind of what they're doing here. So what, are they going to do something about that? Are they going to try to give Goldfarb part of the company? What's really going to happen there? Then you also have Dollard, who, I mean, he is doing, his job and everything, but he's also trying to inspect what they've done, and he might rat them out or something like that. So there are just a million directions that this season could really go. And so far, I have to say, this has been the most unpredictable season of Fargo. I think seasons 1 and 2 weren't straightforward in any way, but this season in particular has been very shocking. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's about to take a really dark turn. I really feel like that's where we're going, and I'm completely fine with that. I think it's absolutely the direction for the show to take. I really have been enjoying the season so far. this to me was such an incredible episode. I think just so much is going down all at once, and I can't wait to see really where that's going to go. But I really did love this episode. I am going to give Fargo Season 3, Episode 5, The House of Special Purpose, a 4.75 out of 5 or an A. Like I said, guys, this season, episode by episode, is just getting better and better as it goes on. I'm loving where we're headed. I have no idea where the show is going. It's extremely unpredictable, but that's why it is just so damn compelling. I can't wait to see really where the show is headed from here, and I just have no idea really what's going to happen from this point on, because honestly, the show has been so unpredictable that I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, we're about to go in a really dark, surprising direction. So overall, guys, remember this episode of Fargo. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Left your thoughts in it. I really did love this episode overall. And I really do apologize for saying I didn't like this season at first, because this season is just, holy shit, is it getting so good. I can't wait to see where we really go from here. I mean, it was really dark, but again, it's just, it's great. I'm loving where this season is going. I'm loving these characters. I'm loving pretty much every action that they take. I don't know why Sai did walk away from Nikki, I will say that, but I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going on with that. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for the next episode of Fargo, that being episode 6, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.